$186,000. That's not rent. That's not a car. That's not a bad investment. That's what modern dating quietly costs the average person, and almost nobody notices it happening. Here's the thing. It doesn't feel expensive. It feels normal. A dinner here, a ride there, new clothes, subscriptions, just one more date. And because it's spread out over years, your brain never panics. But your future self absolutely would. This isn't about being bad with money. It's about a system designed to turn loneliness, status pressure, and social expectation into a permanent monthly bill. And the worst part? Most people think this is just how dating works. But once you see where the money actually goes, you can't unsee it. Here's the lie we were sold about dating. That if you really like someone, the money part shouldn't matter. That effort equals spending. That cheap is the same thing as low value. Movies taught us that the good date is the expensive one. Social media taught us that love looks like restaurants, trips, outfits, and experiences. And dating culture quietly turned connection into a performance. So now, dating isn't about getting to know someone, it's about proving something. Proving you're interesting, proving you're successful, proving you're not boring, not broke, not behind. And once dating becomes a performance, the spending never feels optional. It feels required. Because opting out doesn't feel like saving money, it feels like falling behind. This is where it gets subtle. Nobody sits down and says, "I'm about to financially damage my future for dating." Instead, they say things like, "It's just one night. This is what people expect. I don't want to look cheap." And slowly, dating stops being about compatibility and starts being about optics. Now wait, culture didn't invent this alone, because the real acceleration didn't come from movies or Instagram. It came from something that profits when you stay uncertain, insecure, and always searching. And that's where this gets uncomfortable. Let's talk about the dating app economy, because this is where the incentives get ugly. Dating apps don't make money when you find someone and leave. They make money when you stay, when you swipe, when you hesitate, when you think, maybe there's someone better. Here's the thing most people miss. The apps aren't optimized for love. They're optimized for engagement. Every match gives you a dopamine hit. Every near miss keeps you curious. Every unanswered message makes you try harder. And trying harder usually means spending more. Better photos, nicer clothes, more dates, more upgrades. Now wait, this isn't a conspiracy, it's just math. If an app helped everyone pair off quickly, churn would kill the business. So instead, the system nudges you into endless browsing, infinite options, artificial scarcity, the illusion that the next swipe might fix everything. So you stay longer than you should, you invest more than you planned, and you keep paying not just with money, but with time and attention. This is the hidden economy of dating. Loneliness is the product, hope is the hook, and indecision is the revenue model. But apps are just the surface layer, because even if you deleted every dating app tomorrow, the money bleed wouldn't stop. It would just move somewhere else. This is where the damage really hides, in the small, boring costs that never feel dangerous. No single date bankrupts you. It's the accumulation that does. Start with the obvious stuff, food and drinks. Even casual dates aren't cheap anymore. One night out quietly turns into a 3-digit bill. Then there's transportation, rides, fuel, parking, all friction you wouldn't pay if you were just staying home. But that's only the surface. Dating creates a constant background expense, clothes you wouldn't have bought dating, grooming you suddenly need, subscriptions you keep just in case. Even your phone bill quietly goes up because dating lives on your screen now. And here's the trick your brain plays on you. Because each expense is small and socially justified, it never triggers alarm. You don't log it as dating cost, you log it as life. So the spending becomes invisible. You tell yourself, "I'm not even dating that much." Meanwhile, every month has a quiet line item you never planned for. $200 here, 300 there, month after month. Still doesn't feel scary, right? That's because your brain is terrible at seeing slow leaks. But once you zoom out, once you stop looking at a single month, this is where the $186,000 starts to appear. And the math is about to get uncomfortable. Let's do the math, slowly so nothing sneaks past you. Assume dating costs you $400 a month. Not extreme, not luxury, just meals, rides, clothes, and the occasional upgrade. That's $4,800 a year. Now, wait, most people don't date for 1 year. They date through their 20s and 30s, let's say 12 years. That's $57,600 in raw spending. Already uncomfortable. But this is where people stop, and that's the mistake. Because money doesn't just disappear. It loses what it could have become. If that same $400 a month were invested instead, not perfectly, just reasonably, it compounds. Let's keep it simple. $400 a month invested at a modest 7% return over 12 years turns into roughly $120,000. So now we're not talking about $57,600 spent. We're talking about the money you spent plus the money that money could have made. That's about $177,000. And remember, this is conservative math. Most people spend more during peak dating years, and many date longer than they admit. And that doesn't include missed career focus, delayed investing, or stress-driven decisions. So when people hear $186,000, they think it's exaggerated. It's not. It's just spread thin enough that your brain never screams. Here's the uncomfortable part. Nobody forced you to spend this, but the system nudged you at every step. Status pressure, algorithms, fear of being overlooked. And once you understand this math, you start to see the real cost isn't dating. It's dating without limits. Which brings us to the real trap, the pressure to look desirable at all costs. And that pressure is not accidental. This is the status pressure trap, and it's the reason dating gets so expensive so fast. Because in modern dating, you're not just being evaluated as a person, you're being evaluated as a lifestyle. Effort is measured visually, where you go, what you wear, what you order, how it looks on a screen. So people don't spend money to enjoy the date, they spend money to avoid looking low effort. And here's the psychological catch. You can't downgrade gradually. The moment you suggest something simpler, it feels like a signal, like interest dropped, like value dropped. So instead of asking, do I enjoy this? You ask, how does this look? That's anti-status finance at work. Trying to appear high value in the short term often destroys real stability in the long term. You look successful, but you feel anxious. You look generous, but you're stretched. And because everyone else is playing the same game, the baseline keeps rising. What used to be special becomes minimum effort. What used to be optional becomes expected. So you spend to keep up, not because you want to, but because opting out feels risky. And the most important part, this pressure doesn't hit everyone the same way. Men and women experience it differently. They spend differently, but the financial damage lands in the same place. That's where this gets really revealing. Men and women get pulled into different money traps, but they're powered by the same pressure. For men, the trap is performance, being the planner, the payer, the one who's supposed to have it together. Even when no one explicitly asks, the expectation hangs there, so spending becomes a way to signal stability before you actually have it. For women, the trap is appearance, looking effortless, which is never effortless. Clothes, grooming, beauty standards, constant optimization. None of this is about vanity or ego. It's about survival in a competitive system. And that's the key point. These costs aren't caused by bad individuals. They're caused by incentives. Dating culture quietly assigns financial rules, then pretends those roles don't exist. So people absorb the cost silently, thinking it's just part of the process. And because nobody tallies it up, nobody questions it, which creates a dangerous false choice. Either you play along and overspend, or you opt out and feel invisible. But that's a false choice, because there's a third option most people never explore, one that doesn't involve quitting dating or pretending money doesn't matter. It involves changing the frame entirely. And once you see it, dating stops feeling like a financial leak. and starts feeling like a controlled system again. So what does a smarter version of dating actually look like without turning you into a monk? First, you stop budgeting money and start budgeting energy. Instead of asking, how much should I spend on a date? You ask, how quickly can I tell if this is worth continuing? That one shift changes everything. Shorter first dates, lower stakes environments, conversations that do the filtering, not the spending. Second, you cap your exposure, not per date, per month. Because one expensive night feels justified, a monthly ceiling creates friction, it forces trade-offs, and trade-offs bring awareness back into the process. Third, you front-load honesty. The earlier someone knows how you actually live, the less pressure there is to perform. The right people don't need the performance. The wrong people leave early, which is a win, not a loss. This isn't about being cheap. It's about refusing to let uncertainty drain your future. Because once you control the structure, the system loses its grip. You stop dating on autopilot, you stop bleeding in the background, and you start converting time and money into clarity. And here's the surprising part. When dating stops being a financial stressor, it gets better, not worse. Which brings us to the cost nobody ever calculates, the one that hurts even more than the money. The real cost nobody talks about isn't just the money, it's the distraction. Dating, when it's unbounded, eats attention. It pulls focus away from things that quietly build your future. Learning skills, taking career risks, investing early, even just being bored enough to think clearly. You're always slightly preoccupied, waiting on a reply, replaying a date, wondering what went wrong. That mental load has a cost. It delays decisions, it postpones long-term planning, it keeps life in a kind of emotional holding pattern. And over years, that matters more than any single bill. Because the biggest financial advantage you ever have is timing. Early focus, early momentum, early compounding, not just of money, but of identity. When dating becomes chaotic, expensive, and emotionally noisy, it doesn't just drain your wallet, it delays your future. Which is why this conversation isn't really about dating at all. It's about control. And once you reclaim that, everything changes. This isn't about quitting dating, and it's definitely not about shaming yourself for the past. It's about realizing something most people never do. Dating was never supposed to be a permanent financial tax. It became one because nobody questioned the structure. Once you see that, the power shifts back to you. You stop confusing effort with spending. You stop letting algorithms set the pace of your life. You stop trading long-term stability for short-term validation. And here's the quiet truth. The goal isn't to save every dollar. The goal is to stop leaking your future without realizing it. Because the moment dating becomes a conscious choice instead of an automatic expense, you don't just protect your money, you protect your time, your focus, your leverage. And those are the things that actually make you attractive in the long run. Not the restaurant, not the app, not the performance. Control does. And once you have that, dating stops costing you your future.